All right, what up, folks? It's your man, 100 Days of Summer. In this video, I'm going to talk about a question I asked my Christian followers a few weeks ago, which was, what did Paul mean when he says, "For now we see through a mirror darkly"? All right, now I want to jump to my laptop and go over the scriptures with you, but first I want to share a spiritual experience that I had that actually allowed me to see 1 Corinthians 13 in a totally different way than what I had previously seen it, for about 9-10 years as a Christian at that time. All right, so at the time I was teaching in church. For the last 3 years of me being a Christian, I taught in church, and I got all of my teachings this exact way. So I would wake up, I would be half awake, half asleep, and I would be overhearing a conversation between me, which seems to be my spirit, and God, right? So, and it's always like I'm missing the whole conversation except for the very last question. One last question before you go, and then I ask the question. So in this particular situation, I was in a relationship. The girl that I was in a relationship with was going through a very rough time in life at the time. So I'm like, one last question before you go. You see what so-and-so is going through at the time. What is it? What's happening? What's going on with her? And what God says to me is, so-and-so wants to be made into love. So I'm crushing her to make her mature, because maturity equals love. And when God said that, it was so profound. It had so much more meaning than just that simple phrase. And I understood completely what was being said, at least at that level at that time. And then what I felt was some type of energy enter into my chest, and it welled up in me, and it felt like I was about to explode, but in a very positive way. Like it felt like I was about to explode and I was going to love every second of it. That's what it felt like. Like I didn't mind dying at that. It felt like I was being overwhelmed by this energy and my body was not going to be able to take it and I was going to die. That's what it felt like. So it woke me up out of my sleep. I sat up, sat on the edge of the bed, and I thought about it and pondered about it for about 5 minutes. Love equals maturity. Love equals maturity. Wow. Then I fell asleep. Then I woke up and forgot what love equals. I forgot what the love equals. So it wasn't until one day reading 1 Corinthians that I actually happened to stumble upon the remembrance of what God said to me that day that was so profound. And it allowed me to see 1 Corinthians in a way that I would have never have been able to see it if it wasn't for that experience. All right, so I just wanted to preface this, what I'm about to say, with that, so you understand what I'm saying. And now we can jump over to the laptop. Okay, so as I was saying at the beginning part of the video, I had the dream, but when I woke up, I basically forgot what the message was. It was love equals maturity, but I forgot what the message was. I couldn't figure out what the love equals what. I couldn't figure out what that was. And then one day I came across this scripture, and then it all came back to me, because for the first time I was reading this from the perspective of that experience I had that morning versus my indoctrination. And it all clicked for me. And I saw something that I had never seen before. This is very poetic language, comparison, contrast. And there's like groupings of things, but there's a common theme throughout that I had never seen before that moment. And I was never taught that. So I don't think most people would see it, what I'm about to say. So I have a little helper, little notepad over here that kind of will show you what I'm saying when I go through this. Hopefully it'll help it make more sense. But of course, you could always ask questions in the comment section and stuff. Okay, so we typically hear this scripture, this chapter particularly read at weddings and stuff, right? So the meaning that we often have for it is not what I'm going to say. So it might sound foreign to people, but just kind of stick with me and hopefully it'll make sense by the end of this. Love, charity just means love. It's the word love. So first thing you see is love versus works, how you can do works, but that doesn't mean that you have love. It's comparing everything to love. Though I speak with the tongues of men, angels, I become a sounding brass, tingling cymbal, and though I have the gift of prophecy, I understand all mysteries and knowledge, and have all faith, so that I can move mountains. If I have not love, I am nothing. You see what I'm saying? Do all this stuff and have not love, it profit me nothing. Do all this stuff, and then it says what love is not. So, right, that's what we have here. Love, what love does and what it doesn't do. Love is suffers long and is kind. Envy not, vaunteth not itself, not puffed up, all those types of things, right? Rejoice not in iniquity and all those types of things. Bear for all these things, right? And then we go down here to charity never fails, which is the same thing as love never fails. So we see another comparison. So first we had love versus the works, right? And then we see what love does and doesn't do. And then we see, cause what he's, all right, so let me just keep going. Then we have love never fails. So we have charity never fails, but where there be prophecies, tongues, knowledge, all that stuff goes away, but love doesn't. So here we see another comparison, right? We see a common theme. Then it says, for we know in part. This is the passing away. This is the opposite of love. That's what I want you to see. In part is the opposite of love. For now we know in part and we prophesy in part. See, love never fails, but these things fail. That's why it's in part. For now we know in part. That's the opposite of love. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the point I'm trying to make there. And maybe it'll make more sense as I keep going. For now we know in part, we prophesy in part. These things are the opposite of charity. For now we know in part, for we prophesy in part. For when that which is perfect is come. See, in part is the opposite of love. That which is perfect is the opposite of in part. You see how this is very poetic, comparison, contrast, and there's a continuing theme. Okay, so, but when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. So you see, perfect is in contrast with in part. In part is in contrast with charity. You see what I'm saying? So charity and perfect are the same thing. That's the common theme. You see the comparison and the contrast. He's keeping a common theme, but he's using different words to describe the same thing. So when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. Now, what is perfect? Because if you just read this with our Western mentality, you're not going to really understand the word perfect, because then you won't understand why we go here next. So let's look at the word perfect, the actual definition of the word in the Greek, so that we understand what the idea behind the word actually is, as opposed to from our perspective of the word perfect. All right, so the word perfect is teleos. I don't know how you pronounce it, but teleos. You see here, these are the uses of the word in the Bible. It's used as the word perfect, man of full age. So just using these, we can say when that which is perfect, we can replace the word perfect with of full age. Because what the word means is brought to its end or finish, wanting nothing necessary to completeness, perfect, that which is perfect, consummate human integrity and virtue of men, full grown, adult, of full age, mature. So the word perfect equals mature, adult, of full age, adult, mature, adult, right? Not he doesn't mean this in a literal sense, but you'll see that. All right, so let me get my little helper back up. So now we know perfect means mature. So mature is the opposite of in part, making mature equal to love. So that might not make sense there, but you'll see the common theme. So when that which is perfect is come, perfect is synonymous with charity. We just found out that perfect is the word mature. Remember, that's what God told me in the dream. Love equals maturity, right? So we just saw that the word perfect meant mature, a man or of full age. And then the next line we have, when I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. So here we see another comparison contrast. Perfect is the opposite of child. Perfect is synonymous with when I became a man. When I became a man is synonymous with love. This is what he's saying. So there's a common theme. You can consistently see this going. Yeah, you could, all right. So, and then the next line after that, because you see this right here didn't really connect before when it was just the word perfect. But when that which is perfect is come, because we've been taught that that which is perfect is Jesus. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. And then it just goes to when I was a child, I spake as a child. Understand? But when you look at the word in the Greek, it's like, that's why he went to this line next, because he's talking about becoming mature, doing all those other things up at the top, all those works without love is this, being a child. It's the same thing. And then we go to the next line. Remember, this is a common, consistent theme. For now we see through a glass darkly. So glass darkly, synonymous with child, synonymous with in part. But then face to face. Face to face, synonymous with man, synonymous with mature or perfect, synonymous with love or charity. Common theme, you see that consistently. But let's look at this, because this means something. The child is the same thing as the glass darkly, looking through the glass darkly. Understanding becoming a man and putting away childish things is having face to face. Right? And then you see, all right, so let me, before I get to that part. So the word glass here, you look at this word glass, the actual Greek word, see this word glass here. Let's look at it, the word mirror. So when I say, every time I say this on my page, a lot of people say it's actually glass, it's actually glass. But look, the mirrors of the ancients were made not of glass, but steel. So the word glass is a bad interpretation. It's a mirror. For now we see through a mirror darkly. Now, when you're looking in the mirror, who do you see? Who do you see when you're looking in the mirror? You see yourself. And though I've read this scripture for about 11 years, I never even thought of it that way. Probably because I wasn't reading it as the word mirror. I was reading it as glass. But when you look in the mirror, who do you see? You see yourself. If it's a dark mirror, what aren't you seeing? Who you are. Now, let's look at this word darkly, because this is a poor interpretation as well. Darkly is in an enigma. Enigma, an obscure saying. Enigma, riddle, an obscure saying. This is the word darkly. Mirror, parable, or enigma. So when you're looking in the mirror, it's dark. You can't see what you are because it's a parable or a riddle or an enigma, a puzzle, a mystery, something you have to find out. So now that we've gotten there, for now we see through a mirror and it's an enigma, but then face to face. But when? When the enigma is solved. The opposite of dark is light, enlightenment. But then face to face. That's what he's talking about. This is why he talks about removing the veil off of Moses' face in another book, or maybe in this book actually, but and I think it's in one of the other Corinthians. I actually have it up here, 2 Corinthians 3. That's why he talks about removing the veil off of Moses' face. All right, so for now we see through a mirror, and it's an enigma, but when that enigma is solved, then it'll be face to face. This is face to face is synonymous with love. Through a mirror darkly, not knowing who you are, is synonymous with being a child. It's synonymous with doing all those works, and it means nothing. And you're going to see this so many times. Okay. And now we have another comparison. But then shall I know even as I am known. So knowing as you are known is synonymous with face to face. Isn't that interesting that you're removing the enigma from your face in the mirror so that you can see who you are? And that is being known. That is knowing. See, because now I know in part. That's looking through the glass darkly. But then, you see, but then. For now, we see, right? And now I know. Those two things are synonymous. But then, face to face. But then shall I know even as I am known. So who are you getting to know? What are you getting to know? And what Paul is saying is this process is synonymous with love. If you're doing all that other stuff and you don't have this face-to-face experience, that means nothing. And let me show you another example of that. Let me make sure I'm at the right one. Not everyone that says unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven. We're going to remember kingdom of heaven. Remember that. But he that doeth the will of the Father which is in heaven. For many will say unto me, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? Have we not cast out devils in thy name? and in thy name done many wonderful works. Doesn't that sound really familiar to what Paul was saying? You do all those things, but you have not love. Love is the face-to-face, knowing even as you are known. Remember that? All right. So you do all those things. He says, and then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. I never knew you. What? But then shall I know, even as also I am known. So I never knew you, and Paul is telling you how to become known right here. Now this is going to have to be part 1, because part 2 I'm going to actually show you what the mirror is. I'm going to show you what the actual mirror is, but you have to stay tuned for that. But let me just show you this other thing. This is the Gospel of Thomas. A lot of people say this is the Gospel of Thomas. It's extra biblical. Who put the New Testament together with the Old Testament to make it the biblical canon? Answer that question, and then stop judging people who talk about extra biblical books. All right. Now just look here what Jesus says in the Gospel of Thomas. If those who lead you say to you, look, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds in the sky shall precede you. If they say it's in the sea or whatever, look what he says. Rather, the kingdom is in you and outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will realize that you are the children of the living Father. But if you do not come to know yourselves, then you exist in poverty, and you are poverty. Poverty is the opposite of the kingdom. If you don't know the kingdom is inside of you, you haven't come to know yourselves, and you won't be known. All right, I'll see y'all in part 2. Let's talk about this in the comments. All right, peace.